to Living Truth. In week 3 of our series, Let's Talk About Sex, Peter Chu helps us understand sin, repentance, and divine mercy through the powerful story of David and Bathsheba. And make sure to stay after the message to listen, learn, and see what God is doing through one of our global partners. In week 1 of Loving the Stranger, we begin to learn why and how refugees end up on the island of Lesbos, and how our partner is helping them move forward in safety and love. Let's join in together.
So the title of this morning's message is Crossing Boundaries. Boundaries are there to protect us. Boundaries are there to protect others from us as well. When we encounter a boundary, we're faced with a decision. Should I trust God for this boundary and obey it? Because what God is saying, trust me, this boundary is for your good. For where we're going today, there are 2 specific boundaries that are relevant to our story. First, sex only within marriage. Sex is a good and beautiful gift from God, but powerful. And that is why He's placed it within the boundaries of marriage. Outside the boundaries of marriage, yes, there is short-term pleasure, but also long-term destruction. The second boundary was specifically for kings like David. Do's and don'ts in Deuteronomy 17. And one specific command to the king was that he was not to accumulate wives. David actually has a history with women and wives, and in the preceding chapters of Samuel, the author actually periodically gives us lists of his wives. If I could have the next slide. Okay. Early on in his life, when he's a fugitive running from Saul, repeatedly we're told he has 2 wives. Then he becomes king of Judah, and in 2 Samuel 3, we're told he now has 6 wives. And he has 6 sons. Right after we're told he has 6 wives, Samuel describes David demanding the return of a 7th wife. As part of the deal that was brokered for him to be king over Judah and Israel, he demanded that his very first wife, Saul's daughter, be returned to him. Saul basically had annulled the marriage when he declared David a fugitive and given her away to another man. And even though he had 6 wives, he demanded that she be returned to him. And all of his other wives, the 6, were all single. When he demanded the return of that 7th wife, for the first time in his life, he crosses the boundary of taking a married woman as his wife. The man's name is given. We don't know anything else about him, Paltiel. He took the wife of a nobody, but he's already crossed that boundary. Single women, he accumulates 6. And now his eyes cross another boundary. I'm going to take a married woman from a man that is a stranger. The reader of Samuel has this background when they get to chapter 11 and see him noticing a woman bathing. David sent someone to find out about her. Whoever is sent says, I don't have to go. Isn't this Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite? The unnamed messenger who was supposed to go and find out, his answer is in the form of a rhetorical question. Isn't this Bathsheba? Everyone knows who she is. I don't have to go. In fact, David, you should know who she is. The moment this unnamed man says, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah, that man is telling David, she's out of bounds. You have multiple wives and sons. This woman is the wife of someone else. She's outside the bounds for you. He doesn't listen to the warning. David sent messengers, plural, to get her. She came to him, he slept with her, then she went back home. Notice the power imbalance. She's a woman, her husband's away, her father's away, her grandfather's away. Multiple messengers pound on her door, and they say, the king wants to see you. What choice does she have? Okay. The story is described in this way because the narrator and God want us to see she is vulnerable and she is a victim. She is not a seductress. Now, two things I just want to dwell on before we come to the conclusion. First, the narrator, the storyteller, and God, they do see Bathsheba as the victim. They describe the power imbalance. Her husband, father, grandfather are gone. She is a woman. She's alone in the city. The messengers show up. What choice does she have? The storyteller also describes her in a way that tells us her personhood and her identity have been erased. She is an object of David's desire. She is only addressed by her personal name at the beginning and the end of the story. In between, she's described in terms of the relationship she has with the men around her. The daughter of somebody, the wife of Uriah, the wife of David. And most oftenly, she's simply referred to as the woman or she. And by doing that, the storyteller is saying, what happens to this woman denied her personhood, her identity. She got erased. The last point I want to make about Bathsheba, seen as victim and vulnerable by God and the narrator, is God does not call her to account. He holds David fully and solely responsible. He is displeased with David. Nathan confronts David. Okay? He does not call Bathsheba to account. The second point I want to make as a postscript is David is forgiven, but he is not exempted from the consequences of his actions. As I mentioned, he does lose 4 sons. And for the rest of his reign, he is staggering. His boys are a complete mess. His family completely falls apart. One of his sons rebels against him. Other people rebel against him because he has lost moral authority. He has lost integrity. Okay? He cannot render any decisions or judgments because people look at him and say, who are you to judge? You murdered, you took another man's wife, and you lied. How can you be king? And that's what he lives with as a consequence of his actions. Let me close with 4 points. The first, be aware of dangerous circumstances. What are the circumstances for us that are dangerous? The wrong place, the wrong time, not with the right people, being alone and being idle. Be aware of the circumstances for you and I that are dangerous. Secondly, what is our response when God sends a Nathan into our lives? When a Nathan says to us, you are the person. David did not listen to the first warning. Is this not Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah? He does listen to the second warning. Third, the hero of this story is not David. It is not the fact that he repented. The hero of the story is God. David is God's anointed. David is a man after God's own heart. And you see the horrific actions that he undertook, the boundaries that he crossed. But in response to David's repentance, you see the lavishness of God's mercy. That is the point of the story. It is not about David. The point about David is how horrible he was. But the message for you and I is, this is how willing God is to forgive us. And you may say, Peter, you have no idea what I've done, how deep the hole I'm in. And you're right, I don't. But your God does. And Jesus died for all of us so that we could be pulled out of the deep holes that we find ourselves in. Are we willing to reach up and grab his extended nail-pierced hands and be pulled out of the deep hole? And lastly, forgiveness does not mean we will be exempt from consequences. We cross boundaries that were intended to protect us. We cross those boundaries, there are going to be consequences. I think David's reaction in 2 Samuel 12 is a good model for us to examine. He does pray, God, can you change the circumstances? He's praying, appealing to God's power and his mercy. But God says, no, I'm not going to change your circumstances. You're going to have to live with this, David. And what does David do? He worships God. He accepts them. After we repent, after we've received forgiveness, living our consequences in humility and dependence on God will testify of God's mercy in our lives. Because when we sin, it was all about us. When we're forced to live through our consequences in dependence on him and in humility, it now becomes all about him. He's just reoriented how we live. When we sin, it was all about us. When we live out the consequences in dependence on him, it becomes all about God.
I want to thank you for tuning in and joining us today. I'm here with the Living Truth team on the ground in Lesvos, Greece. We're here on an incredible journey of learning and hope to meet with refugees who have come to this island after fleeing their homelands because of unspeakable persecution and living conditions. Our God knows no borders. Our world is facing a refugee crisis. Around the world, persecution, human rights disasters, and political violence are raging on. In the past 5 years, 2 million children were born as refugees. Over 117 million people have been forced out of their homes and the lives they knew. The island of Lesvos in Greece is one of the key entry points for people from all over the world seeking refuge through Europe. And over half of them are children. They have traveled through life-threatening conditions to get here. I want to invite you to join us on an incredible journey, to listen, learn, and to see what God is doing as we meet with refugees here on the island of Lesvos. We'll also meet our global partners from the International Association for Refugees, who are committed to recovery work that seeks to strengthen community, faith, emotional well-being, and personal capacity. Together, we'll discover how even in the most challenging places, God is here. As we go on this unbelievable journey together, would you commit to praying with me? As our partners at the International Association for Refugees are supporting people physically, emotionally, and spiritually along one of the world's most dangerous routes for refugees, let's pour out our prayers to the God whose love extends beyond every border. Can we ask him, who walks alongside those forced from their homes and comforts those seeking refuge, to protect them and to continue his work here in Lesvos?
Our God knows no borders. Our world is facing a refugee crisis. Around the world, persecution, human rights disasters, and political violence are raging on. In the past 5 years, 2 million children were born as refugees. Over 117 million people have been forced out of their homes and the lives they knew. The island of Lesbos in Greece is one of the key entry points for people from all over the world seeking refuge through Europe. And over half of them are children. They've traveled through life-threatening conditions to get here.
Hi, my name is Aida. Growing up at the People's Church, God's call to love the stranger and to love your neighbor as yourself always stood out to me. But what does that really look like today? I want to invite you to join me on an incredible journey to listen, learn, and to see what God is doing. Over the next 3 episodes, we'll meet refugees here on the island of Lesbos, and we'll also meet our global partners from International Association for Refugees. Together, we'll discover how even in the most challenging places, God is here. Currently, we are on Lesbos, which is a Greek island close to Turkey. And so behind me somewhere here is the camp, the place where a lot of individuals are able to come and begin their journey to other parts of the world.
When refugees eventually find safety here, they're met by teams from our global partner, International Association for Refugees, working with their local partner, Eurorelief, to welcome and provide care. To get a better understanding of the situation, I'm looking forward to sitting down with a few asylum seekers to hear their stories.
Hi, nice to meet you.
I'm good. How are you?
Good, my name is Aida. What's your name?
My name is Qasim.
Qasim.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So where are you from?
I'm from Syria.
So how long ago did you come to the camp?
Almost 2 months.
Almost 2 months?
Yeah.
Do you have a big family in Syria?
Yeah. We're 5. 2 sisters,
Okay.
2 brothers. I'm the oldest. I'm the oldest one. So the youngest one is 15.
Wow.
Yeah. This is.
Oh, that's so sweet. And this picture is in Syria?
Yeah. Syria.
Oh, that's so kind.
Thanks so much.
I was also given the opportunity to sit with Sama, who recently arrived from Iraq with her husband and young children, to hear about her motivation to flee from home.
Someone man in Iraq, very dangerous for me and family.
Okay.
Very dangerous.
What hopes or dreams do you have for your children?
Good future. Study and good job and peace, safe peace. Because in Iraq, not safe. Not. Very bad.
As I also listened to Ahsan share about life in Afghanistan, his willingness to risk everything for the sake of his children was a story I realized could be found throughout the camp.
I have 3 daughters, 10 years old, and 5 and 3 years old. As you know, Taliban don't allow that daughter after 6th class couldn't study, couldn't go to a school or university. And also another reason that is that we don't have any clear future. So me and my wife have a good jobs, have a good salary, home, don't have any problems. But after the fall in the government, all things changes.
Wow.
Yeah. My wife lost his jobs. I lost my jobs, and all of things changes.
Wow.
With millions on the move for the first time every year, I was curious about what was behind the forced displacement.
I think in some ways there's been an ongoing refugee crisis kind of consistently throughout the years. And so I think it's really a mix of things. It's political unrest, it is conflict, it's persecution, it's even climate change and just the effects of drought and fires and things that are happening and impacting communities where life isn't sustainable in other places. But yeah, I think the stories that people share are leaving situations where it is no longer viable for them to live. It isn't safe for them or their families.
So as you meet lots of children and their families, what kind of vulnerabilities do you see?
Yeah, so many. Like I worked with a Syrian Kurdish family that I was really close with back in the early days, and they told me a lot about their journey here and how they, climbed over the mountains from Syria into Turkey. And so they faced like starvation and dehydration and like almost didn't make it. So just lack of access to basic resources, inadequate shelter, kind of unsafe living locations. A lot have been exposed to like exploitation and abuse. So there have been families who've been abused by the smugglers, who've kind of forced them to do different things.
So you're here in Greece and Lesbos at the camp by yourself, and your wife and your children are still back in Afghanistan, correct? So how come they're still back there?
No, I just by myself traveled to Greece because I couldn't bring my family because the way is very dangerous. From Afghanistan to the Iran don't have any problem because the Iran country will give the visa. But after the Iran illegal come to the Turkey from the mountain, from the sea and from the different way, as sometimes faced with the police of Iran, police of Turkey, that is a big problem for the family. Because I'm single, no problem that if any hurt, any problem I can't face, no problem, but my family, my kids, is impossible that face to this problem,
Wow.
And after that is from Turkey to Greece is also, I come from by boat, and I want that family face to this problem.
I've heard of people who've flown to Turkey. I've heard of people who have ridden on trucks. Some have even walked. So there's a lot of different ways that people get to Turkey, but people who come to Lesbos all come by boat. It's all run by smugglers, so there are people who have come in like speedboats actually, but that's going to be a way higher price to pay. The far majority of people are coming in rubber dinghies, and there, ranges from 20 to 30 people, I would say, per boat.
Wow. As Kasim and I spoke about the risks and dangers of the sea, he opened up about some of the costs of making the journey. So you said it was really expensive to come. How much, what is the cost of coming here?
$1,000.
Pardon?
$10,000.
$10,000 American.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So I can't imagine that being easy for a lot of people to gather that amount of money, especially if you have your whole family.
Yeah, you gotta sell a lot of, you gotta sell your house, anything you had or you have back home, which is even lands, a house or something like that, or borrow some money from your relatives outside the country. They've been living outside for a long time, which is, it is so hard to get money by yourself.
So along the way, you also said there's militia and there's people. So do you also have to pay them on top of the 10,000?
Not really. You gotta hide it from them. You gotta, you gotta pay for some who can help you.
As I listened to Kasim and others shared their stories, it struck me that for so many who come to this island, home is a dry land with little water, let alone vast and dangerous seas.
This year alone, the camp has seen over 14,000 refugees come from Turkey, and all of them have come on a lifeboat from Turkey all the way to Lesbos. And this includes a lot of children, babies, elderly individuals, and people who don't have the physical ability to swim. So there's tons of thousands of other people who have not been able to make it to Lesbos and have unfortunately died in the journey trying to make it from Greece to reach Europe and to reach the island. So coming to Lesbos and coming from Turkey is a year-long activity. It doesn't just begin in the summer and stop when it's winter. And a lot of the individuals who come in the winter get to the shore in freezing conditions and are shivering, cold, don't know where to go, might not even know where on the island they are. And so all along the coastline, you would be able to see small campfires and little areas where people would huddle together close to create heat within themselves and warm up from the cold water. So as much as there is beauty, there's also so much sadness in being here and witnessing where these people come to.
The beauty of this shoreline has been restored, but only a few years ago, with more than 3,000 people a day arriving, it was lined with abandoned rubber dinghies and life jackets. So much so that as time wore on, the dumping grounds became known by the locals as Life Jacket Mountain.
This area here is full of dreams, full of the things that they've left behind, and it's very heartbreaking to see all these things and think these are lives and stories that we might not ever be told and we might not ever know where these people are. And so, I don't know, I can't help but wonder of all the stories of the people that are here and whether they'll be able to reach their dreams and where they are today. So to be here and see all these things just absolutely breaks my heart.
Through their work here in Greece, our partners are able to act on God's calling to love the stranger in real physical and emotional and spiritual ways.
One of our mandates within Eurolief is to help displaced people by caring for them, by loving them, by creating spaces for them. Like we do that in women's community, where they can come and relax. We also do that in food lines, where that can be really chaotic when it comes to maybe what are traditional ways of how you care for someone spiritually. Places like women's community or men's community or social care, where it is about focusing on the individual, the person, caring for them, definitely does foster and care for people in those ways.
What has been the most rewarding aspect of being here?
I really think it's the relationships with residents in camp and just getting to be a small part of their journey and see the positive impact that we can have by just showing up and caring. Yeah, that's been really, really huge. Yeah.
Creator God, we hear your call to love the stranger. Help us to hear your voice and give us the courage to respond.
I'm so glad that you've joined us on this incredible journey to listen, learn, and to see what God is doing through this ministry. I hope that you'll join me in prayer for this incredible ministry and the impact on the lives of refugees from around the world. I would like to ask, as you pray, would you also consider what God is calling you to give? A ministry of this size requires a lot of financial support. Let's bless them immensely with our financial gifts together as the Living Truth community. If you would like to be a part of this incredible mission, you can make a secure donation by visiting livingtruth.ca or by calling 1-888-269-6085. If you'd prefer, you can send a check to the address on your screen. An annual income tax receipt will be issued for gifts of $10 or more. Thanks again for being an important part of the Living Truth family. God bless you.
Thanks so much for being here with us to worship and learn together. Join us next week as we hear more incredible stories of loving the stranger from our global partner. Don't forget to visit livingtruth.ca for more worship and teaching anytime.